ahead towards the 8th chapter. Bholi. What do you mean by Bholi? Innocent, pure. By K.A. Abbas. So you see the innocence on the face of this little girl, the girl with a very pure heart. All about her is this story. Let's go ahead. First, let's know about our author before we get on to that little innocent girl. Khwaja Ahmad Abbas was a famous Indian film director, novelist, screenwriter, and a journalist in Urdu, Hindi, and English languages. He was the maker of films like S.W. Hindustani and Do Boond Pani, which won the National Film Award for the Best Feature Film on National Integration. He wrote screen scripts of the best of Raj Kapoor's films like Awara, Shri 420, Mera Naam Joker, and Bobby. He was born in the family of the famous Urdu poet Hall, who was a student of Mirza Ghalib. His grandfather was one of the chief rebels in 1857, First War of Independence. So you see what a strong background this author has. I mean, it's really very, very impressive. So let's get into one of his most impressive stories and the plot of the same. Bholi is the story of a village girl who was discriminated as she had pock marks on her face, stammered, and was considered to be a simpleton. Now these pock marks are, when you get smallpox, so when it goes, some scars are left, your skin gets blemished, there are blemishes. You get those, some shades on your skin. So she had those on her face. It did not go completely, unfortunately. She stammered, Kiran, we all are very well aware of that. So that's stammering. And she was considered to be a simpleton. Very, very straight little girl, very innocent. Bholi suffered an attack of smallpox when she was just 2 years old. So right from then on, she had those marks on her face. She damaged a part of her brain when she fell off from the cot. Now this was one bad, really unfortunate incident that she had, the marks on her face. And one more was when she fell off from the cot, when she, the small bed that the children sleep on. So she had fallen from there. She had hurt a part of her brain which got injured. And that's the reason she was not that clever. That part of the brain never functioned for her. So she never had that, full-formed brain for herself. Education transformed a dumb cow into a fearless and courageous girl. The role of education. Never take it for granted. You have no idea how important is education. Right now, to what I see, I have always noticed it, that children these days have a very casual and a very lethargic approach towards education, towards studies. But my dear friends, you should know this very, very well. Education is an asset. You have no idea, in today's competitive world, you just don't know when you might need it. So please make sure that you give it your best shot. Don't you ever take it for granted. You will see in this how essential and how significant is education. So education transformed. Now it gave a big transformation from a dumb cow into a fearless and a courageous girl. First, she agreed to an unequal match, Bishambar, just to maintain the honor of the family. Her father, Ramlal, put even his turban at the feet of the greedy bridegroom. He accepted to marry a girl with pock marks only after getting 5,000 rupees as dowry. Bholi showed the courage of throwing away the ceremonial garland into the fire. She refused to have a mean, greedy, and a contemptible coward as her husband. So you see, such a big transformation. To know this in detail, let's move on. Her name was Sulekha. But since her childhood, everyone had been calling her Bholi. So we all have some nickname, right? So she was called Bholi, the simpleton, a foolish person, easily tricked by others. So being very innocent, see, you don't, when you're innocent at heart, you don't know that the opposite person is cheating you. So she would easily get tricked by others. So she was a simpleton. She was the fourth daughter of Nambardar Ramlal. Now Nambardar is who? An official who collects revenue. Yeah. So he was the revenue collector. So that's what he was called, Nambardar. When she was 10 months old, she had fallen off the cot on her head, and perhaps it had damaged some part of her brain. So she was just 10 months old and she had fallen off. I mean, just imagine, no fault of hers. She knew nothing then. That was why she remained a backward child and came to be known as Bholi, the simpleton. Now, backward is she could not remember things. She could not understand easily because, remember, a part of her brain was damaged. So she did not have that understanding power. At birth, the child was very fair and pretty. But when she was 2 years old, she had an attack of smallpox. Only the eyes were saved, but the entire body was permanently disfigured by deep black pock marks. Disfigured as in having a spoilt appearance. Her entire body was covered with those marks, excepting the eyes. That bad an attack she had got. Little Sulekha could not speak till she was 5. And when at last she learned to speak, she stammered. She, repeating the first word, k, 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 if she had to say her name, b, she could not say Bholi. So she went on like this, she would stammer. The other children often made fun of her and mimicked her. Mimicked her as in, when you copy someone, you make fun of that person. So you imitate someone or their actions or words, especially in order to entertain or ridicule, to make fun of that person. So they used to make fun of this little girl because she used to talk that way. As a result, she talked very little. Now, obviously, if someone is continuously making fun, everyone is making fun of you the way you are talking, so you definitely wouldn't want to talk. Ramlal had 7 children, 3 sons and 4 daughters, and the youngest of them was Bholi. So she was the youngest one. It was a prosperous farmer's household, and there was plenty to eat and drink. Now, the father was pretty rich enough, good enough, well enough, and they had enough to eat and drink. All the children except Bholi were healthy and strong. All the children were absolutely okay, no issues at all, except this little girl. The sons had been sent to the city to study in schools and later in colleges. Now, those days there was a lot of discrimination. The girls are not supposed to study. The boys can go. A lot of all that was there. So, yeah, the boys were sent to, to the city to study in schools. They even went to colleges. Of the daughters, Radha, the eldest, had already been married. The second daughter, Mangla's marriage had also been settled. And when that was done, Ramlal would think of the third Champa. So you see all the daughters. So you have Radha, you have Mangla, you have Champa, and then is Bholi. Her name was actually Sulekha. They were good-looking, healthy girls, and it was not difficult to find bridegrooms for them. It was not difficult because, see, when a girl is nice and normal, she's pretty, she's healthy, then you never have issues. But Ramlal was always worried about Bholi. She had neither good looks nor intelligence. Now, if you go to see, when she was born fair and pretty. But her destiny was so framed that she had, when she fell from the cot, she suffered a brain injury. Then she got this attack of smallpox, and so she lost her beauty. So if you see, it's not the poor girl's fault at all. But then, yeah, that was her destiny, and so she had to go through that pain. Bholi was 7 years old when Mangla was married. The same year, a primary school for girls was opened in their village. So now the same year, there was a primary school that had come up in their village. The Tehsildar Sahib came to perform its opening ceremony. Now, Tehsildar is who? He's a tax officer in charge of obtaining taxes from an administrative area in India with regard to land revenue, right? So, he's a district collector. Now, he came there to do the opening ceremony of the school. He said to Ramlal, as a revenue official, remember he was a revenue officer, as a revenue official, you are the representative of the government in the village. And so, you must set an example to the villagers. You must send your daughters to school. He says, look, you are representing the government here. Now, if you want to really set an example, instead of telling them, you rather do it in action. You send your girls to school, send your daughters to school, then others will follow. Otherwise, nobody will. So, you better do that. That night when Ramlal consulted his wife, he's discussed the matter with his wife, she cried, are you crazy? If girls go to school, who will marry them? Oh my God. Now that statement, if you tell now, it will be like, so if girls go to school, nobody would marry them. Just imagine the situation then. But Ramlal had not the courage to disobey the Tehsildar. He says, I definitely cannot disobey him. At last his wife said, I will tell you what to do. So they took a midway solution. Send Boli to school. As it is, there is little chance of her getting married with her ugly face and lack of sense. Let the teachers at school worry about her. Now, I don't know what kind of a mother is she, but she felt that, she doesn't have a chance to get married, and neither is she beauty nor does she have sense. So let the teachers do something for her. Let the teachers do the needful. So it's better she goes and not the others, because the others were, pretty enough and beautiful enough to get married easily. The problem was with this girl. The next day, Ramlal caught Boli by the hand and said, come with me, I will take you to school. Boli was frightened. She did not know what a school was like. Now, he just told her, let's go to school. And she had no idea what does the word school mean. She remembered how a few days ago, their old cow Lakshmi had been turned out of the house and sold. Now, she was a little child. So, it's always the case. The children remember what they see. They don't do and remember what you tell them. So, whatever they see, they know that. Right? So that's what she saw. She saw the old cow Lakshmi was turned out of the house and she was sold. So you imagine when the father was taking her out and she knew she was not beautiful, she had issues. So she was scared. No, she was stammering. She shouted in terror and pulled her hand away from her father's grip. She just moved her hand away. What's the matter with you, you fool? Shouted Ramlal. I am only taking you to school. Then he told his wife, let her wear some decent clothes today, or else what will the teachers and the other schoolgirls think of us when they see her? Now, just imagine, let her wear some decent clothes today. That means all these days how she was dressed? Very shabbily, dirtily. That day she wore nice, decent clothes. Look further. New clothes had never been made for Boli. The old dresses of her sisters were passed on to her. No one cared to mend or wash her clothes. You can imagine the poor plight of this girl. I mean, again, she is not at fault, but still she's going through all the torture. Nobody bothered to give her new clothes. She used to wear her sister's leftover clothes. Nobody used to care to mend, even if they were big, she used to wear those big flowing clothes. Nobody bothered to even wash her clothes. But today, she was lucky to receive a clean dress which had shrunk after many washings and no longer fitted Champa. Just the previous one. So it was not fitting that girl. It was nothing new. It was Champa's dress. She had worn it n number of times. Now it had shrunk, so it was not fitting her. So obviously it was passed on to Boli. So that day she wore that clean dress. She received it. Basically, it was luck for her. She was even bathed and oil was rubbed into her dry and matted hair. She had a nice bath that day. She was given a nice bath. There was oil rubbed into her hair, her dry and matted hair, matted as in entangled. The poor soul, nobody even bothered to clean or comb her hair. Only then did she begin to believe that she was being taken to a place better than her home. Now, when she was, when all this was done to her, she realized that now I think something good is happening. If I'm going to some place, it's way better than my home. That is why I am being dressed like that. When they reached the school, the children were already in their classrooms. Ramlal handed over his daughter to the headmistress. So now when they reached there, the school, the children were already in their classrooms, and he handed over, Boli to the headmistress. Left alone, the poor girl looked about her with fear-laden eyes. Now he walked away, the father, and everyone was new to her, the place was new. So she was very scared sort of thing. There were several rooms, and in each room, girls like her squatted on the mats, reading from books or writing on slates. So now there were many rooms around because it was a primary school, and in every room the girls were sitting squatted, as in they sat on their heels, right, on the mats, and reading from the books, or they were writing on the slates. The headmistress asked Boli to sit down in a corner in one of the classrooms. She told her, okay, now you go and sit down there in the corner in one of the classrooms. Boli did not know what exactly a school was like and what happened there. But she was glad to find so many girls almost of her own age present there. Now, she did not know what a school was. She had never been to one. She had never heard of one. So, how was she to know? I mean, if you've never heard of something, you'd never know. She was there, but she didn't know what that place was meant, what you're supposed to do in that place. But the best part was when she saw the girls of her own age, nearly her age. So she was very happy. She said, oh, I can make some nice friends here. She hoped that one of these girls might become her friend. So she was happy about that fact. The lady teacher who was in the class was saying something to the girls, but Boli could understand nothing. Now, you all know that she already had a problem, right? She was a backward. Backward here means that she could not understand because of the brain issue. She had that mental issue. So she could not understand anything what the teacher spoke. She looked at the pictures on the wall. The colors fascinated her. She really loved them. The horse was brown, just like the horse on which the Tehsildar had come to visit their village. So, when the Tehsildar had come there, she remembered this was the same horse, like similar color. The goat was black like the goat of their neighbor. The parrot was green like the parrots she had seen in the mango orchard, and the cow was just like their Lakshmi. So now she is referring to all the things that she has already seen before. So she was connecting it all. So she felt that, the horse was like the horse of the Tehsildar. The goat was like the neighbors, the black goat. The parrot was like this. It was similar to the parrots which she had seen in the mango orchard. Orchard is that place where fruit trees are grown. So she saw it in the mango orchard, and the cow was the one, which they had, that Lakshmi, the old cow. That was similar to that. So she was seeing all the pictures and she was getting the connections. And suddenly, Boli noticed that the teacher was standing by her side, smiling at her. What's your name, little one? Now the teacher has come to her. Says, what's your name? She asks her name. Bo. She could not say it. She used to stammer. She could stammer no further than that. She could not say anything more than that. Then she began to cry, and tears flowed from her eyes in a helpless flood. She was feeling bad. She was embarrassed. She didn't know what to do. So she just started crying. She kept her head down as she sat in her corner, not daring to look up at the girls who she knew were still laughing at her. Now, when there is, now those children are also small. They were just her age. So they did not know that you're not supposed to laugh at her. But then even they laughed because they heard her speaking in a very strange manner. So she did not have the guts. She was so embarrassed. She did not have the guts to look up because she knew those girls were laughing at her. When the school bell rang, all the girls scurried out of the classroom, but Boli dared not leave her corner. So when the school bell rang, all the girls, they scurried as in they ran or they moved hurriedly. They all ran out of their classrooms, but Boli was still there sitting in that corner. Her head still lowered, she kept on sobbing. Now still she was feeling bad about it and she had not stopped crying. She was now sobbing. Boli, the teacher's voice was so soft and soothing. Soothing as in having a calming effect, reducing pain or discomfort. So very sweetly she tells her, Boli, very cutely she calls her. In all her life, she had never been called like that. It touched her heart. You remember, all used to really make fun of her, scream at her. She had never seen love coming from anyone. So when the teacher called her with so much of affection, with so much of love, it really touched her heart. She felt very good. Get up, said the teacher. It was not a command, but just a friendly suggestion. Boli got up. She just told her, get up. Did she not get up? She did not do that. She just told her, get up, like a very suggestion type. Now, tell me your name. Now she saw that the girl is already so frightened. She is crying. So obviously the teacher could not be harsh on her. So she tells her, tell me your name. Sweat broke out over her whole body. She became nervous. The sweat broke out over her whole body. Would her stammering tongue again disgrace her? Now the tongue that she had, she knew she could not speak clearly. Will it again bring embarrassment to her? Will it disgrace her? For the sake of this kind woman, however, she decided to make an effort. Now this teacher, this lady was so loving, so she wanted to try to tell her. She did not find any harm in doing that. She wanted to. She had such a soothing voice, she would not laugh at her. She said, she's so polite, she's so loving. I'm sure even if I don't speak well now, she will definitely not laugh at me. She will not make fun of me. Again she began to stammer. Well done, well done. The teacher is encouraging her. The teacher encouraged her. Come on now, the full name. Yes, go on. Boli. And finally she says it. At last she was able to say it and she felt relieved as if it was a great achievement. She was happy. It was a big achievement that she could say her name. Well done. The teacher patted her affectionately. Very lovingly she patted her back and said, put that fear out of your heart and you will be able to speak like everyone else. She says, my dear child, there is no problem. There is a lot of fear inside you. Just put away that fear and you can talk like anyone else, like all your friends, like everyone else you can talk. Boli looked up as if to ask, really? Because nobody had encouraged her. Nobody had motivated this girl. Nobody had loved and, caringly asked her things like that. So she was, really? Yes, it will be very easy. You just come to school every day. Will you come? Boli nodded. She just did this. No, say it aloud. The teacher saying, don't do this. You tell me. Yes. And Boli herself was astonished that she had been able to say it. She made her say the two words and that meant a lot. That started the confidence in her. The seed of confidence was sown then at that point of time. So she was really shocked herself. Didn't I tell you? Now, take this book. The book was made full of nice pictures and the pictures were in color. Dog, cat, goat, horse, parrot, tiger and a cow just like Lakshmi. And with every picture was a word in big black letter. So, the teacher gave her this lovely book. In this book, it was, a book full of animals. She could see all different kinds of animals. And next to every animal, there was an alphabet. There was a word, right? So it was in big black letters, the word. Now, in 1 month, you will be able to read this book. You know, with full confidence, the teacher is telling her, in 1 month, you can definitely read it. Then I will give you a bigger book. Then a still bigger one. So, you know, she will progress. So, she says, first you master this book, become good at it. Then I will give you another book to read. And after that, yet another one. So, she will progress. In time, you will be more learned than anyone else in the village. She said, you will be more learned than anybody else. You will be the most cleverest child. Then no one will ever be able to laugh at you. Nobody will make fun of you. People will listen to you with respect and you will be able to speak without the slightest stammer. Understand? She says everyone will start respecting you. But you have to make the first move. Start speaking. Throw away the fear. Once you start that, then everyone will respect you. Why? Because you will no longer stammer. No one will ever make fun of you. Now go home and come back early tomorrow morning. She gives her a lot of confidence. She gave her a good booster. She gave her all the proper support she could. Lot of moral support. And she tells her, now you come back early tomorrow morning. Boli felt as if suddenly all the bells in the village temple were ringing and the trees in front of the schoolhouse had blossomed into big red flowers. Now the girl, you know, she was so happy. She was ecstatic. She was very, very happy. She was overwhelmed. She was so overwhelmed that she felt that all the bells in the village were ringing. She was so happy with her achievement. She felt that the trees which were there outside the school, in front of the school, they had blossomed into big red flowers. So happy. Her heart was throbbing with a new hope and a new life. She was looking forward to a new life. Why? Because the teacher had given her all the hope and all the encouragement. So now she was looking forward to a new life. Thus the years passed. The village became a small town. She started going, she started studying. Years went by and soon the village became a small town. The little primary school became a high school. There were now a cinema under a tin shed and a cotton ginning mill. The mail train began to stop at their railway station. So these are the things that happen. They show the progress of the village. So in case you have a 2 marks question, that's your answer. What were the changes? And what do you mean by this ginning mill? Separating raw cotton from its seed. Yeah. So this is what they had. These were all the changes that took place. The primary school became a high school. There was now a cinema under the tin shed. There was a cotton ginning mill. The mail train also started stopping at their station. One night after dinner, now everything was going on. There was progress in the whole village. Everything was fine. One night after dinner, Ramlal said to his wife, "So then, shall I accept Bishambar's proposal?" What proposal is he talking about? Yes, certainly, his wife said. Boli will be lucky to get such a well-to-do bridegroom. Oh, so they are talking about Boli's bridegroom. A big shop, a house of his own, and I hear several thousands in the bank. So now that bridegroom is very well-to-do, very rich. He has a big shop, he has a house of his own, and he has a good heavy account. Lots of money in the bank. Moreover, he is not asking for any dowry. Oh, so he was a man who was ready to marry her without any dowry. That's right, but he is not so young, you know. Almost the same age as I am. Father's age. If that man is like, you know, Boli's dad's age, that means that man is also Boli's dad's age only. No, they are the same age. And he also limps. Oh God. And he cannot walk very well. He limps. Moreover, the children from his first wife are quite grown up. Well, Boli getting married to such a man with so many thorns in the rose? You can just imagine the plight of that girl. How could she get married to such a man? So what does it matter? His wife replied, 45 or 50. It is no great age for a man. Those days it was fine. It was okay. We are lucky that he is from another village and does not know about her pockmarks and her lack of sense. Now do you see? This is like cheating that man. He had never seen the girl. And he's not even aware that she has these marks all over her body, and also she has lack of sense. If we don't accept this proposal, she may remain unmarried all her life. Now the mother is, I don't know with what intention she is doing this. She says, if we don't know, actually the mentality in those days was different, right? The mothers just felt, oh, the girls should get married, they should go. Now be it 12, be it 14 years, or be it 16 years or 18, which was rare. So they used to quickly get their girls married off. So she felt if we don't get her married, she will remain unmarried throughout her life, which then was it was a bad thing to happen. Yes, but I wonder what Boli will say. Now the father is like, I don't know how the girl will react. What will that witless one say? Witless as in, here she's calling her a fool, who has no sense. So what will that witless one say? She is like a dumb cow. A cow says nothing, does nothing. She's a dumb cow. That's what her mom called her. Maybe you are right, muttered Ramlal. Now the poor husband says, he goes, Hanji. He says, yes, okay. In the other corner of the courtyard, now courtyard is an unroofed area, it's an open area that is completely or partially enclosed by walls or buildings, typically part of a castle or a large house. So it was just an open area surrounded by walls. Now, while these people were talking, the husband and wife, in the other corner of the courtyard, Boli lay awake on her cot, listening to her parents' whispered conversation. She had heard it all. She had heard every word that they spoke. Bishambar Nath was a well-to-do grocer. He came with a big party of friends and relations with him for the wedding. All of them, all the friends, all the relations, everyone came with him for the wedding. A brass band playing a popular tune from an Indian film headed the procession, with the bridegroom riding a decorated horse. Now this was a typical marriage procession. There was band playing, the bridegroom was on a well-decorated horse, all friends, family, relations walking. So it was a big thing, to happen. Ramlal was overjoyed to see such pomp and splendor. Pomp as in ceremony and splendid display. He was like, wow, this is wonderful. So he was very impressed, he was overjoyed. He had never dreamt that his fourth daughter would have such a grand wedding. He had never even thought of it that this would be the case. Boli's elder sisters, who had come for the occasion, were envious of her luck. What people? Now they are getting jealous of her. Envious as in they were jealous of her luck. Why? Because he was such a rich man. And they did not see the other parts behind it. They only saw the money, and so they were jealous of her luck. When the auspicious moment came, the priest said, bring the bride. Boli, clad in a red silken bridal dress, was led to the bride's place near the sacred fire. Now the bride was brought. She was clad just as a bride with a red silken bridal dress, and where the bride was supposed to sit, she was taken there. Garland the bride, one of his friends prompted Bishambar Nath. So one of his friends says, oh, please garland her. The bridegroom lifted the garland of yellow marigolds. He lifted the garland. A woman slipped back the silken veil from the bride's face. Those days they had that ghungat, that the sari that they used to cover the face till down. So it was like a veil. It is a piece of material worn by women to protect or conceal, to hide the face. So she had that. So when the bridegroom went to put the garland, so one lady over there, she pulled that veil open. So when she pulled the veil open, the face was visible to the bridegroom. Remember, the bridegroom had not yet seen the face. So a woman slipped back the silken veil from the bride's face. Bishambar took a quick glance. Now, in those days, they never had this thing of, seeing each other, meeting, talking, nothing of the sort. If the parents decided, it was done. So he just took a look at her. The garland remained poised in his hands. He was like, oh, poised as in steady, hanging. It was in his hands and he just saw her face. The bride slowly pulled down the veil over her face. The bride understood. So she quickly took that and she put her veil down on her face. She covered her face again. Have you seen her? Said Bishambar to the friend next to him. She has poke marks on her face. He's telling his friend, oh my God, she has poke marks on her face. So what? You are not young either. He says, that's fine. If she has that issue, you are equally old. You are not a young person. You are getting such a young bride. You are an old one. Maybe, but if I am to marry her, her father must give me 5,000 rupees. Now just look at that. He says, now I am marrying this girl who has these marks. I am not just marrying her. I have a condition. The father has to give me 5,000 rupees. Otherwise, I will not marry this girl. Ramlal went and placed his turban. He took his turban and like a typical old Indian movie, Hindi movie, they put it on the feet and his honor at Bishambar's feet says, do not humiliate me, so take 2,000 rupees. He says, okay, if that's the case, you take 2,000 rupees, I'll pay you that much. No, 5,000 or we go back. Keep your daughter. Now, very boldly and, very bossy way, he says, oh, you keep your daughter. I am not marrying her if you're not giving me 5,000 rupees. Be a little considerate, please. If you go back, I can never show my face in the village. He says, please consider just don't tell me 5,000. Consider it. You come down to 2, come down to 3. I cannot give you 5. He says, if you go back, I will be totally humiliated, in the whole village. It will be a difficult thing for me. Then out with 5,000 he says, oh, so if you think it's difficult for you to survive in this village, then you kindly give me 5,000 rupees. Tears streaming down his face. Ramlal went in, opened the safe and counted out the notes. Now in those days, 5,000 was a very big amount. It's not like today. 5,000 is nothing even today. But then it was a big deal. He placed the bundle at the bridegroom's feet. He brought the money and he placed it at his feet. Okay, here is the money. On Bishambar's greedy face appeared a triumphant smile. He was victorious. He was, oh, I made it. I won. I asked for it and he gave it to me. So he had that nice victorious smile. He had gambled and won. Give me the garland, he announced. He had gambled. Literally, he had gambled. He played a gamble and he won it. It was like a lottery for him. And now he says, give me the garland. Once again, the veil was slipped back from the bride's face, but this time, her eyes were not downcast. Downcast as in they were not looking downwards. Previously, her eyes were down. She was a bride. That's the charm of a bride basically. But this time, when she saw all this happening, so when the veil was opened, she looked up. She was not looking down. She was looking up, looking straight at her prospective husband, and in her eyes, there was neither anger nor hate, only cold contempt. So when she looked at her husband, she was not angry. She did not hate him, but there was feeling that a person or a thing is worthless or beneath consideration. Says, no. She gave that look that you cannot be considered. You are definitely not worth it. Bishambar raised the garland to place it round the bride's neck. But before he could do so, Bholi's hand struck out like a streak of lightning and the garland was flung into the fire. So as soon as he tried to garland her, she just pushed the garland away and it went straight into the fire. She got up and she threw away the veil. She just got up from there and she just opened, that ghungat. She threw away the veil. Pitaji, said Bholi in a clear, loud voice. Nice and loud, she did not stammer. And her father, mother, sisters, brothers, relations and neighbors were startled to hear her speak without even the slightest stammer. She had gone to school. She had learnt it all. So now she spoke loud and clear and everybody over there who knew her, absolutely everybody, they were highly shocked because she spoke it nice and clear. She was loud and clear and she did not have the lightest stammer in her voice. Pitaji, take back your money. I am not going to marry this man. Ramlal was thunderstruck, extremely surprised or shocked. Now, he's a father. People are around. The bride speaks out. And in those days, you see, when the girl was not sent for studying, now if she speaks like that in front of the whole society, you can imagine. So the father was thunderstruck. The guests began to whisper, "Oh, so shameless, so ugly and so shameless." They all started speaking like that. "Bholi, are you crazy?" shouted Ramlal. "You want to disgrace your family? Have some regard for our izzat." Sis, what's wrong with you? You're disgracing the entire family. "For the sake of your izzat," said Bholi, "I was willing to marry this lame old man." She says, "For your izzat only, I had said yes. I had agreed to marry lame old man. But I will not have such a mean, greedy, and a contemptible coward as my husband." Says, "I'm sorry, I definitely cannot marry this mean, greedy, and contemptible coward. He's such a coward. You want me to marry this man? I won't, and I won't." She was totally bold about it. What a shameless girl. We all thought that she was a harmless, dumb cow. Now, just because she got the freedom to speak, it was not even freedom actually, but just because she spoke out, she became a dumb cow. Just because she had to stand against, she was standing firm with her decision. That's how the society took her. They started calling her a shameless girl. Bholi turned violently on the old woman. "Yes, auntie, you are right. You all thought I was dumb, driven cow. You all thought, the whole society thought that I was dumb. That's why you wanted to hand me over to this heartless creature. That's why you all wanted me to marry this man. But now the dumb cow, the stammering fool is speaking. Do you want to hear more?" She says, "Do you want to hear more from me? You call me dumb. You call me shameless. You call me, a stammering fool. You want to hear more from me now?" Bishambar Nath, the grocer, started to go back with his party. All he and his people started going back. The confused bandsmen thought that this was the end of the ceremony and struck up a closing song. Now for them, they were confused. They didn't know what was happening. So they put up the ending song, the closing song. Ramlal stood rooted to the ground. He was numb. His senses were not working. He didn't know what was happening. He was blank. His head bowed low with the weight of grief and shame. Those days, it mattered a lot. If your children spoilt your name, the father would die of shame. So his head was low and there was total grief and shame. The flames of the sacred fire slowly died down. The fire around which they were supposed to get married died down. Everyone was gone. Obviously, the marriage wasn't happening, so everyone went back home. Who stood there? Ramlal turned to Bholi and said, "What about you? No one will ever marry you now. what shall we do with you? Now the father says, okay, this thing happened, fine. But now you tell me, nobody will ever marry you, and what am I going to do with you? And Sulekha said in a voice, with a very calm and steady voice, she said, don't you worry, Pitaji. In your old age, I will serve you and mother. I will teach in the same school where I learnt so much. Isn't that right, ma'am? So Sulekha says, don't worry, Pitaji. You don't worry at all. You will grow old. Who will take care of you? I will take care of you and mother in your old age. And I will teach in the same school where I learned so much. The school which taught me so much. I learned to live my life. The definition of life changed for me after I went to school. So I will teach in that same school. And the teacher who had actually brought that revolution in her life was standing right there. So she tells her, isn't that right, ma'am? The teacher had all along stood in a corner watching the drama. The teacher was standing there and she was watching this entire episode. Yes, Boli, of course, she replied. And in her smiling eyes was the light of a deep satisfaction that an artist feels when contemplating the completion of her masterpiece. So you see, Boli was nurtured by this teacher. She was molded, she was groomed, she was strongly supported, and she was the teacher's masterpiece. The teacher had doubts. She was contemplating, will she be or will she not? She had supported her from day one. From the day Boli had come to school, from that very day, the teacher had taken over. She had strongly supported, motivated and encouraged her. And so today, when she spoke up, the teacher was so proud, just like an artist feels when he sees that the masterpiece has been done. So, Boli was the masterpiece of the teacher. Beautifully said, extremely well said. Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open one. So beautifully said by Malcolm Forbes. Says, the purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open one. Now here it was empty mind. Yes, Boli's mind, she was a dumb cow. That's what they called her, right? And now it was an open one. She had the daring to stand up and, stand with her decision firmly that, look, I cannot marry such a man. And she was okay with it. She even took care of her parents. She went to the school to teach, the same school which actually gifted her a new life. Isn't that so wonderful? So touching. So the name of the chapter, Bholi, innocent, it gave her a lot of rewards. Yes. So for such more beautiful lessons, keep watching and keep learning.